This is the Book Legion Podcast, where we review thought-provoking books to give our Legionnaires the knowledge they need to dominate the next level of their life.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining me on the Book Legion again this week. This is your host, Tyzer Evans. Gonna be holding the phone and doing it in my reading den. You can see here, I've built out where all my books are at. But the book I want to talk to you guys about this week is If You're Not First, You're Last by Grant Cardone. So I've reviewed a couple of other Grant's books. Obviously, if you don't know who he is, I'll cover his bio real quick. His most popular book is The 10X Rule. Grant Cardone is famously known for being a real estate investor. As of today, right now speaking, he has about $5 billion worth of real estate under management. I actually have been a personal investor in his programs. But don't worry, his book review is not a paid promotion by Grant whatsoever. I just really love his course content. I've been to the Growth Con, so Grant Cardone got to start actually selling as an entrepreneur to car dealerships. He went around with his seminar program trying to redo the way that people sold cars. And that was his first business. Now he's got Cardone Ventures. He helps entrepreneurs get their business up to speed. He does the real estate, which I talked about. He also has a great sales training program called Cardone University, which I've used with personally, and I've used with sales teams. So it's great. So this book was one of the first ones he wrote. You're not first, you're last. I think it was a 10X rule. Be obsessed, be average, and if you're not first, you're last. All came out within a span of about 2 years. He went on a flurry of writing these books right after the Great Recession. This book is very business-centric. So the 10X rule is one that really talks to you about changing your mindset. Same thing, be obsessed or be average, same type of thing, shifting your mindset. This book is really about application. So he has another book, Sell or Be Sold. This one's gonna be more along the lines. It has some sales techniques, but also gives us techniques about how to increase your revenue with your business. So I'm going to cover my top 3 chapters out of the book. So the first chapter I'm going to cover is chapter 4, which is the most effective call to advance and conquer. Well, I wanted to cover this because it kind of caught me off guard because Grant's really big on heavy on cold calling and just activity, right? The whole principle of 10X rule is just to whatever you're trying to accomplish, you just need to 10X it. So if your goal is 100, make it 1,000 and unequivocally you'll hit your goal, right? By just sheer more effort, more volume. This, though, really talks about being strategic and effective. So this is not talking about sales calls at all. It's talking about making in-personal visits. He says is the most effective way to build relationships. And I happen to agree with him, right? Typically, I call, being a producer myself, and then I try to set up a meeting either by Zoom if they're in a different state, which I'm always willing to go fly though. But oftentimes, if it's right around here in Texas, then I want to go see them in person. And so the last sales team I ran, one of the things that we did was highly effective is I'd have the guys pick out 2 days a month where they would go out and they would go visit people out in the field. Unusual for our industry, just kind of drop in on people cold. But think about it. If someone's been dodging your phone call, dodging your email, especially if you're putting tracking on it, they're listening to your messages. You can clearly see that you're reading your emails. So it's nice just to drop in. It puts them on the spot to have to engage with you. And if anything, it shows how much you care and how far you're willing to go to making a connection with a potential prospect. And so this is how Grant built his seminar business. He didn't have a marketing budget. He didn't have money. He didn't have a team. It was just him. He was a solopreneur flying across the country. And if he had a seminar event, then he would go drop into different prospects in that city after his event was over. And so he just really drills in on this technique that if you can master this technique of being comfortable with dropping in on people cold, then it's the best way to grow a new relationship. And I happen to agree with him. So the second chapter I'm going to cover is actually chapter 3, which is Reactivating past clients. Now, this is something that's a huge missed opportunity by most businesses. You spend so much time, effort, and energy to go and attain a new client. You sell them, you have a great interaction, you build some rapport, they're sold. And then what happens oftentimes is then you get on to the next new client, the next new client, the next new client, always hunting for new business, not realizing if I took the time to go back and talk to people who've already believed in me, know me, like me, and trust me, then maybe I can do additional business with them. So this is something that I always have pulled for all of my sales teams. I'll say, hey, who did we quote last year or 2 years ago that we never sold and that maybe we've lost touch of that relationship? Let's go back and reactivate that relationship. It's an easy lift. I've seen easily a 10 to 20% lift in overall sales numbers. Just go back and reactivating clients that you previously haven't sold from the years prior. So he really drills in on this message and gives actually practical ways to be able to do this using your CRM and whatnot. So pay attention to number 3, because it's a really easy lift in your business if you're struggling to hit new marks, right? It's not always all about prospecting new business. Sometimes it's about prospecting the business you've already sold. And then the last chapter I'm going to cover is chapter 11, which is Act Hungry. And I love this because if you work for a big company or you've been in sales a long time, and like myself, I've won lots of sales awards and I feel pretty accomplished, and when you get to a place of kind of complacency or even arrogance or confidence, that can also be detrimental to your sales. And so I've always come at it like it doesn't matter what I did last month. It doesn't matter what I did last week. It only matters what I do today. And so for me in sales, I always try to stay hungry. When I stay hungry, I stay the fire. That way I can stay on top, right? It's the guys that get complacent, they get arrogant, that they actually start to have a harder time retaining business and attracting new business because they're not willing to bend over backwards for their clients like they were at the start of their journey. And this is something that he really gets into, is that you have to be willing to bend over backwards for your clients at all times, always. Grant's one of his big mottos is always be agreeable. And so I like this chapter because I think that as you get older and you get more tenured in your sales career, well, people can plateau, especially with their income, is because they lost the dog, right? They lost the dog. And so you got to keep that hunger there. And the best way to do it is to have gratitude types practices. So if you're at the top, you're at number 1, then I remember the last company I was at, I came out and I was number 1 in the country. And I asked, because I didn't think he was going to catch me. I knew nobody would, just the way that I was starting the year and the way I'd finished the year previously. And I said, has anybody ever sold $10 million for the business here? And they go, no one's, maybe someone's got close to 8. I go, cool, my goal's 10, right? Because I wasn't going to compete with anybody but myself was my mentality, but I still had to have that hunger. I still wanted to be that underdog. I still want to be that dog in the fight. And I didn't want anybody freaking nipping at my heels. And so I had to set new benchmarks for myself to not get complacent, to still be hungry, to still be engaged when a client gave me, maybe it was a prospect, it was a smaller deal. A lot of people, they start making money in sales. They shove off the smaller deals. I don't have time for that. I don't want to deal with that. It's not worth my time. No, man, because every time that I would take somebody seriously that maybe would not get me the revenue that I wanted, right, or even maybe that I needed, guess what? That might result to a sale later down the road when I need to reactivate somebody. Or maybe they have a friend that has a company that's 10 times the size and they appreciated so much how I treated them that now I get the intro and the referral for new business on a company that's going to pay me 10x. So no pun intended. So anyway, so I really like this chapter. Got to stay hungry. Les Brown talks about this too. So check out the book. If you're not first, you're last. It's harder to find. I will post the link in the bio so you guys can scroll right down, hit the link and buy it. I want to say it's like $20-$25, but it's a really good. There's 17 chapters. It's about 250 pages. Sorry, my arm's getting a little tired. Usually listen to the podcast. Know that I also put this video up on YouTube, so I'm holding the phone today. So anyway, so go hit the link, check it out. If you haven't ever checked out Grant Cardone's material, I would suggest to do so. There's a lot of people have got a lot of opinions about him because he's a very strong-willed, opinionated person. But anybody who lost their dad at 10 and came from nothing, came from Lake Charles, Louisiana, and now he's got $5 billion in underneath real estate, a self-made man. He's someone to pay attention to. So thank you guys so much. And if you haven't done so, make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you get the weekly notifications. We do try to drop one, me and Kevin, once a week. We have a great lineup coming for 2023. We're already starting to plan that. We really want to take the book Legion to the next level. So drop us an email. If you have a book or a recommendation that you think other people should hear, we want to hear from you. So shoot us an email. It's always posted. Our Facebook, the website, everything's always posted in the show notes. So make sure you get in contact with us. And I just want to thank you guys so much for listening this week. Talk to you soon.